Welcome to the WJBM Outdoor Show, brought to you by Midwest Tractor Sales in Jerseyville. We're coming to you from the WJBM studios in Jerseyville, the voice of the Tri-Counties. I'm Aaron Quillen. I operate Monarch Rivers, where the mission is simple: kill big deer. And with us tonight, we have Austin Cress.
Nice beer.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here.
No problem. No problem at all.
Man, Hooner for life.
Hooner for life.
I love it.
Yep. River rat.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful.
What's it like being from the Hoon, where you've just kind of grown up? What's your perspective on that? I guess everybody here,
we're spoiled.
Yeah.
You know, we're spoiled to live where we live, away from a lot of violence and crime.
Yeah.
You know, kudos to Calhoun Sheriff's Office.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're fortunate over there. Small community. You know, everybody gets along. Everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's the abundance of resources there is crazy to me.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, it's a barge wait to get to Jerseyville,
Yeah.
you know, stuff like that. But
yeah,
and that it all works out.
Yeah. So like right now, tons of snow geese seem to be entering the area.
Yeah.
And I guess we've had a chance to sit in a blind together. We did okay, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
But, seems like it's starting to turn on a little.
Hopefully I can get out there with you guys a little bit more, you know?
Yeah.
So.
If you got to stop working so much.
I know. That's the thing. got bills to pay, you know, and birds have to wait.
Yeah.
So.
So you've been hunting your whole life, hunting, fishing, right?
Yep. Started when I was 8 years old, you know, or before that, you know, but legally hunting with a gun, you know, got my hunter safety course when I was 8 and grew up around hunting and fishing.
Okay. What's your all-time favorite thing to hunt or fish?
Duck hunting is probably one of my favorite, you know.
Okay.
Along with deer.
Okay.
Yeah, I like duck hunting a lot.
Okay.
I enjoy it.
All right.
I enjoy it.
What about duck hunting? What stands out like as your favorite? Because that's kind of a Calhoun thing.
Yeah, just when I was a kid, you know, Dad would pull me out of school.
Okay.
You know, back when I was in, you know, grade school, he could pretty much predict a flight day. Okay. You know, and it was a lot different back then.
Yeah.
And he'd take me out of school. Okay. And we'd go, you know, and that's my favorite part about it, you know. Yeah. It got me hooked, you know. Okay. Having them big bunches of mallards come in there on you when I was, you know, 8, 9 years old. I still remember, you know, a lot of stuff when I was that young.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Is mallards your favorite?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Have you ever shot like a unique duck?
Just, you know, a lot of divers too. Okay. You know, them are fun.
Yeah.
You know, I've killed some bands in my life. Okay. You know, not too many, but that's fun. That's always a joy to go out there and get that banded duck from a dog. So. Right. You know.
Right. The dog thing is crazy.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
And then.
Yeah, it's rewarding, and that's, you know, 99% of why I go is to watch a dog. Mm-hmm. You know, I've got a 12-year-old at the house that's starting to get to his end of his career. Okay. You know, and I got a puppy now that I'm gonna start really working with, start hunting him a lot. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
How's the pup?
He is a little over a year.
Okay. Oh, he carry a bird then?
Yeah, he can carry a bird. Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
What's his name?
Whiskey.
That's good.
So I named my old dog, my old yellow lab, Jaeger.
Okay.
Jägermeister.
Right.
So I had to keep the whiskey trend going, you know, the alcoholic trend going to whiskey. So he's a black lab.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Okay. And then with the deer hunting, I mean, that's another Calhoun thing as well.
Love it.
Yeah. Are you more of a archery guy, gun? What do you like? What's your weapon of choice?
Yeah, archery. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, compound bow. Yeah.
All right.
Yep. I really haven't got any shotgun tags, you know. Got some last year.
Yeah.
Got too busy, you know, kids and other other stuff. But I like the archery a lot. But I try to kill at least one a year with archery.
Okay.
You know, it's just a thing. You know.
Yeah.
Fill the freezer.
Yeah.
Try to get as many as I can, but you know, I try to kill at least one.
Okay.
A year. You know.
How'd your past season go?
I killed 2 deer.
Okay.
Seen some shooter bucks.
Yeah.
Just didn't go a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I'm really busy. I do drywall.
Right.
You know, and everybody's calling, so you know.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time out of it,
and kids.
I
mean.
Yep.
Kids.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Kids will do it too. So
I think that aspect of being a father has kind of brought the want to just have fun aspect back to deer hunting for me.
Yeah.
And it's just overall, it's really that. Another thing, Poacher said something to me that we were hunting and we had some opportunities at some yotes that were close,
mm-hmm.
and they were in and out so fast, no shots fired, and his attitude towards that experience
mm-hmm.
actually it meant a lot to me. He probably doesn't even know that, but it did. Just he was as happy in failure as he was success.
Yeah. It's not all, you know, not always about the killing part. It's about calling them things in, you know, close enough to get a crack because they're smart.
Nature's miracle, like God's design, all that.
Yeah.
Like totally intrigued, and yes,
mm-hmm.
but I was probably too. Well, I know at times in my life I've been too focused on the harvest, winning, right, like
for sure.
But yeah, just having fun with it.
That's the main thing.
And having kids kind of, you know, it gives you that new perspective to just make sure there's a smile on your face.
I will tell you that, you know, talking about deer hunting, got my daughter into it.
Yeah.
You know, got her youth tag this year, and me and her mom took her up to her farm, and she ended up, you know, harvesting her first deer with the same gun I killed my first one with, you know, when I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
So, you know, this little youth model 20 gauge, mm-hmm. you know, it's I teared up, you know.
Yeah,
it's just
100%.
You know, that's my daughter, you know, she just did the same thing I did when I was 8 years old, and you know, it's pretty emotional.
Yeah.
You know, it's emotional.
Yeah, it is 100%. And you know, my brother's kids and I are pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, you know, before I had a child of my own, you just get so proud of them.
Yeah.
Whatever they're, you know, whatever it is that they're doing, whenever it comes together like that, you just so proud of them.
Yeah, it's some, you know, more rewarding for a parent than it is the kid, you know, 'cause
mm-hmm.
they're so young, they don't, you know, they really don't register it until they actually get a little bit older and be like, hey, this is what Dad was, you know, all hyped up about, you know, kind of thing. So yeah,
for sure. So I guess would that make your third love the crappie fishing?
Oh yeah. Well, okay. I tell you what. Probably my first love.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. Right. I'd put that before hunting.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Started out, you know, when I was a young age, before I can remember, you know, taking trips with Dad, and you know, he showed me the ropes. You know, when I was growing up, we used to fish with a guy named Jim Hannikin.
Okay.
He passed away several years ago. But, you know, we'd go hop in the boat with him, or he'd, you know, hop in the boat with us. He was an older man, you know, and he couldn't get around very good the last couple of years of his life.
Okay.
You know, we tried taking him, you know, as much as we could, but that's where it all, you know, started out. You know, I remember them days of fishing, you know, at Red's Landing and, you know, Gilead Slough and, you know, the river, both rivers. You know, just around the county, you know, and
mm-hmm.
and then, you know, once I got a little bit older, I started remembering the trips to Mark Twain. Mm-hmm. You know, we took a lot of trips to Mark Twain camping. Okay. You know.
And so Mark Twain seems to be a pretty big crappie hotspot destination.
Yeah, it's a pretty big lake, really.
Okay.
You know, it has its years.
Okay.
You'll have a down year. And then, you know, you'll have a spike back up, you know, where you're catching 11, 12, 13-inch crappie, all day long, without having to throw, them 6, 7, 8 inches back,
Okay.
But they do, it'll run a cycle.
All
They're at that lake, and there's big fish, still there, but you just got to go hunt for them.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of thing.
Now, do you find that you get a lot of big fish in the river too, or is that
Yeah, they're when you catch them out of the river, they're hogs.
Oh, okay.
They're usually big.
Okay.
Black crappie, white crappie.
Okay.
They're usually big if you catch them out of the river, for sure.
All right.
Yeah.
I'd imagine you use different techniques when you're in a lake versus the river.
Yeah, not too much, really.
Okay.
A lot of guys have these live scopes now.
Yeah.
Which actually I'm getting one this year.
Okay.
First try, first year I'm gonna have it. And,
Yeah.
they're nice. They're a game changer.
Yeah.
For finding them and you can watch that jig go down to them.
Mm-hmm.
And watch them things just mount up to it and whack.
Yeah.
I haven't used it a lot, but I've got some buddies from Calhoun like Gus Ballman.
Yeah.
He's legit on one of them things.
Okay.
My cousin Caleb, he's getting more into the live scoping, getting pretty good with it.
Okay.
So I was like, why not? I'll buy one.
Okay.
But I didn't have one for all these years, and I would go just go fish.
Okay, yeah.
Just find them.
Right.
Find them on your own. Which that goes back to Dad. Teaching me a lot about where they're at and where they'll be the specific time of year.
Okay.
That's got a lot to do with it.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a break real quick, hear a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the WJBM Outdoor Show, brought to you by Midwest Tractor Sales in Jerseyville. We're coming to you from the WJBM studios in Jerseyville, the voice of the Tri-Counties. I'm Aaron Quillen. I operate Monarch Rivers, where the mission is simple: kill big deer. For those of you just joining, Mr. Austin Cress, passionate crappie fisherman.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We were just talking about little, kind of growing up in Calhoun, some of the aspects of the hunting and fishing, and sounds like no matter where you go, crappie might have some similar tendencies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so are you kind of hunting or kind of fishing with the same rig, depending on if you're Mark Twain or fishing the rivers?
Yeah. So, there's several different techniques you can use, whether you're casting to them, spider rigging, where you got, 6 or 7 poles out on your front of your boat, and you go trolling for them,
okay.
They'll hit it, you'll hit it and you'll pick it up, it's kind of like a trot line on the front of your boat for crappie.
Really?
And then, you can vertical jig, which is my favorite.
Okay.
I use a 12-foot Wally Marshall or ACC crappie stick.
Okay.
And you just dip for them,
Mm-hmm.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Very fun to feel that thump, feel that thump.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, is it, some fish, and I'd imagine all fish to a degree, but water temperature, is that a big factor when you're crappie fishing?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. So, right now, coming off the freeze, they're going to be looking for warmth.
Okay.
They're going to be roaming around, just filling their gut with shad, whatever they can eat.
Okay.
Up in the water column. They're going to be coming up as the days get warmer. They'll be coming up for that sun. And that's when they really get fun, because you can catch them between 2 foot and 4 foot, 6 foot, and 20, 30 foot of water.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they'll come up and they'll get on that structure, trees, cedar trees and pole timber, in the lakes and river even too. They'll get up real high, and it's almost like they're sunning themselves to get warm, and the bait, it raises them bait fish up. So they're not so deep. Them bait fish are trying to get warm too, so them crappie will move up with them bait fish.
Gotcha.
This time of year.
Okay.
you know, and then gradually as the water gets warmer, you know what happens? They go on spawn.
Yeah.
You know, and right before the spawn, I like to catch them. You know, off the bank. They're off the bank a little bit, but you know, they're going to be pretty close to the bank when that water temperature is getting up in the 50s. You know, mid 50s. They're going to be pretty close to getting up on the bank. You know.
Okay.
So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then you're looking for structure, and it sounds like the water temperature is a big, you know, aspect. So how do you gauge the water temperature? Do you actively like, all right, we're at the spot where I think, and then kind of test the water temperature? How do you do that?
Yeah. So, you know, I was talking about live scope earlier.
Yeah.
You know, most guys now have got a fish finder on their boat.
Right.
You know, that'll read, you know, temperature. Might not be the fanciest, you know, live scope or you know, Garmin or whatever, but it'll at least tell you the water temperature, and you can read a lot off of that water temperature.
Is that at surface though?
That's at surface temp.
Okay.
Yeah, that's at surface temp. Yeah, it's hard telling what it could be. You know, it gets cooler as it goes down, of course, and that's why them fish, you know, they'll raise up and try to get warm this time of year. But
okay.
Yeah. So we throw the trolling motor in the water. I've got a mount on my, you know, trolling motor.
Yeah.
So it'll tell you water temperature, you know, whether there's structure down there. It'll tell you where there's structure.
Okay.
And then you just basically just fish around, you know, it's and try to find them. Try to find the ones that'll bite. You can throw your jig down there. It might be 400 crappie sitting on a brush pile, and only 3 of them will bite, you know, just
right.
This way it goes.
I got to do this. So I'm looking at this from like a deer hunter / farm pond fisherman.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, it's kind of like the mystery of the two rivers, right? Because they change, and then you know, I guess if you're fishing a big lake like Mark Twain, that's probably got some changes that occur, but it's probably more like the, you know, whatever plants are in bloom or, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
It's just so fascinating to me because I've caught some nice crappies out of farm pond that I grew up on. Yeah. But I really don't know much about it. And I'm just trying to envision, you know, when you're deer hunting, you're kind of like looking for funnels, AKA structure. Sure. You know, you're looking for bedding, structure, different stuff like that. Yep. Now, with the 12-foot rod, I bet that's why do you need such a long rod?
You kind of putting a sneak attack on them, you know, for one, when them fish do get up, you know, to spawn or they get up to sun. Yeah. You know, you don't want to get right up on top of them because they'll take off. Okay. You know, you'll see these guys. We go down to Mississippi every year. Okay. Every year we go to Mississippi. Yeah. And we get out on Grenada Lake, you know, Sardis Lake. Okay. And we'll try to chase these things down. Them guys have live scopes, so they can follow them fish, and you wouldn't believe how them fish move with, you know, boat slap. Yeah. Boat hitting the waves. Them fish are gone. Really? So you've got to be, you know, pretty far away from them for them not to hear it. Right. You know, and then, you know, just, you know, kind of a fish around the brush deal. Yeah. You know, you're not casting into the brush. You know, you can get that pole in there, in that treetop or wherever you're fishing, and get in there real tight. You know, and put that jig down in there. You know, instead of getting all snagged up if you're casting. Right. Okay. And that helps out too. You know, having a longer pole, getting out there a little bit farther. You know. Okay. For that reason. All right. It's almost like a modern day cane pole. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Basically. Basically, it is. Yep. And then, what kind of like line do you use for that? I was using braid there for a while. Okay. You know, a 10-pound braid. Yeah. It's hard to break. Okay. You know, whenever you get snagged up, you can pull on that thing and you can straighten your hook out so you don't lose a jig. Wow. So you know, but I went back to monofilament. Okay. You know, there's several different types of line you can use. Yeah. You know, whichever you prefer. Okay. But the braid's definitely good, you know. Yeah. Not as sensitive as the monofilament. Okay. You know, but yeah, I've used it all. Okay.
And then, so you basically, regardless of whether you're fishing a river or a lake, it's going to kind of stay the same there.
Yeah, kind of. You know, you're looking for your bait fish.
Yeah.
You know, your bait fish are coming out of the river. I like fishing creeks that feed into the river.
Yeah.
I grew up like I was talking, my dad, you know, took me when I was young, and we'd go up these creeks and stuff, and the bait fish would be plentiful. You know, you could see them shad all over the place.
Right.
And you get to these treetops, well, these crappie be posted up in these trees in this brush underwater, you know. And ambush them. You know, some get swimming pretty close to that structure. Them crappie are gonna come out there and whack it.
Right.
You know? Yeah. So, yeah, it's about the same as you know, fishing on a lake. You know, they'll be suspended in brush piles. You know, anywhere from 30 foot deep to 10 foot to 2 foot. You know, they can be anywhere. You know, and as it warms up, you know, things really start to come to life. They get more active. Yeah. And it's just fun. I love it.
And so, like, do they kind of migrate from structure to structure as it warms up then, or is that?
Yeah. So they'll migrate. They'll move. But you know, once they find a home, they pretty much stay put. Okay. They'll go roam around. Yeah. You know, they'll roam around and feed. Yeah. Out in open water, nothing even around them. Okay. And you know, they'll go find structure. Yeah. You know, for cover. Right. Cover from other fish.
Yeah, they want to eat them.
Yeah, exactly. And they're pretty tasty.
Right. They are. All right. And then the you had mentioned, what'd you call it? Spider
rigging.
Spider
rigging. Yeah.
And you're doing that off the front of your boat.
So yeah, these guys, I've never done it. Okay. But I've seen it done a lot. Okay. Some fellow Calhoun guys, I've known of them doing it quite a bit, you know. Summertime, it's a blast. You can pull crankbaits. Yeah. And catch them really good. Really? With little crankbaits. Okay. That swim. You go through a school of crappie, you know, they'll put that live scope down or Garmin or whatever they got. Yeah. They'll put that down and they'll rig these poles out, you know, 6 or 7 of them, and it kind of lays out on the front of your boat like a hand.
So, but you almost have to have some weight on it. Yeah. To get it so it's not hitting your motor.
They got you know, heavier weights on them for sure. Yeah. That keep them straight down. Yeah. You know, instead of blowing back. Yeah. You know, blowing back to the back of your boat, they pretty much go straight down. Okay. And whatever structure or fish, you know, bundle of fish you run over, it's going to pull them 6 or 7 poles right over that bunch of fish. Yeah. And whatever depth they are is whatever depth you set that line to. Yeah. Off the front of your boat. Okay. So
that's like fishing for mahi.
Yeah.
In the Mississippi River. Yep. Okay. Well, that's cool.
Yeah. It's neat. It's neat to watch it be done. I've never done it. Okay. You know, I'm a straightforward vertical fishing, you know, one pole. Mm-hmm. Feel. I like to feel. Right. Feel them. Hit it.
And what's the limit on crappie?
So Mark Twain Lake, you're allowed 15.
Okay.
You know,
that's a lot of fish.
Yeah.
You're talking what, a couple pound fish?
Yeah, it varies. You know, Mark Twain, a good fish is, you know, 12-inch fish up there. Okay. And that's pretty basic for that lake. Okay. You know, pound and a half.
All right.
You know, but when we go to Mississippi, it's a lot different story. Okay. Water stays warmer down there longer because it's so warm down there. Yeah. Well, you know, pretty much all year round until you get to the winter months, but it's a shorter winter down there. Yeah. And, you know, they get bigger, quicker. Okay. And there's a 12-inch limit down there, 12-inch fish limit. They got to be 12 inches or over to keep. Okay. So they get big. All right. They get big. The biggest one I caught down there was a 2.7 pound. Holy cow. You know, and the guys I go with my cousin. Yeah. He caught a 3-pounder down there last year. And it's the things are huge. You can fit a soda can in their mouth. They're that big, you know. You may not catch a lot of them. You know, it depends on what time of year you go down there. Yeah. If you're looking to catch big fish, you know, you go down the southern states, you know, and it's a lot different. Okay. Yeah.
But same techniques.
Same technique. You know,
Okay.
we actually do some wading for crappie
really?
down there. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We get in the water with them.
All right.
You know, on a year that there's a abundance of water, that they're flood control lakes is what they are down there.
Okay.
And they'll come up. You know, the water will come up high.
Okay.
And getting them cypress trees.
Yeah.
Well, you can, you know, wade through them cypress trees in knee deep water and fish these trees and yank them out of there.
Really?
They move up with the water. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, especially, you know, in the spawn, you know, they'll get up there and try to do their thing. And it's a blast wading for them. You got a stringer hanging off, you know, a net behind your back. You got a stringer in your pocket.
Nice.
Little thing of jigs, you know, in your wader pocket, and maybe a soda or two shoved down in your waders. But
Right?
yeah, and some snacks. You got to have the snacks too.
You got to have snacks no matter what you're doing.
Yeah. Yep. It's a lot different down there. You use different techniques down there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether you're wading or fishing out of a boat. You know, but it's pretty much the same if you're fishing out of a boat.
Okay.
You know, you look for that structure, and they'll be there. You know, just depending on what time of year it is, you'll find them deeper on structure. With you know, the warmer weather coming, they're gonna be getting up, you know, pretty shallow.
Okay.
You know, which I've caught around here. You know, I've caught fish in February. You know, right after the ice has got off, which is one of my favorite times to fish for them.
Okay.
Right after the ice gets off.
Yeah.
You got a couple warm days. You know, them fish will get right up in the water column. You know, right on brush. You know,
Okay.
wanting to feed.
Okay.
Sunning, you know, they're getting some sun. You know, that's fun. That's fun when you can go in there and without electronics. You know, I'm not dissing people with electronics at all. You know, they still got a bite.
Right.
You know, they still got a bite. You can sit there and fish, but they still got a bite. There's days I've went out there and, you know, not caught a single fish, not have a single bite. It's just fun being out there, you know, and enjoying it.
It's like trail cams with deer.
Oh, of course.
You know, it's great to have the technology.
Mm-hmm.
And then some days you just want to go hunt an area that you don't have the data and you just want to hunt.
That pattern.
Yeah.
It's the pattern. That's just like fish, you know, they got a pattern.
Uh-huh.
You know, in the fall time, they'll fall back deeper.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they'll fall a little bit deeper. You can catch them 10, 15 foot of water. They hang right around in that area all year round.
Okay.
Basically, you know, a little deeper, 20 foot, 30 foot. I've seen guys, you know, on videos catch them at 30 foot deep, but I'm not going to put a jig down there that far.
Okay.
You know, but yeah, they basically stay in that 10 to 15 foot range all year round.
Okay.
So,
and then you with your tackle,
mm-hmm.
you know, mostly jigging, you're using jigs. How do you decide on what to use, like hook wise?
You know, you go with a ounce and 32nd.
Okay.
Or an ounce and 16th jig head, or ounce and eighth ounce.
Okay.
You know, that's basically the best three for crappie that you can get. You know.
Okay.
Ounce and 32nd. You know, that's a slower fall.
Aha.
You know, it's a slower fall jig. You know, it real slow going down through the water because it's so light.
Okay.
You know, you put an 1/8 ounce jig on there, it's gonna go down there a little bit faster. If you want to get to them, you know, down deeper, that's the way to go. But
Gotcha.
you know, ounce 32nd probably your best bet. Ounce 16th.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. You know, and there's all kinds of plastic jigs out there. You know, Bobby Garland, Thump. You know, just all kinds of them.
Yeah.
Just all kinds of colors. You know, and I sift through a lot of colors during the day. You know, you got murky water, you want to put a darker color jig on.
Okay.
Yep, and clear water, you want to put a clear color jig, white chartreuse.
Okay.
You know, blue.
Yeah.
Bobby Garland makes a really good one. Ice.
Okay.
Ice color. It's really good and clear. You know, more clear water.
Okay.
It's kind of funny how that works out. You know, you're fishing muddy water and you're putting you think you'd want a brighter color on,
Right.
But you really don't. It's the opposite.
That's okay.
Yep.
So I guess it just stands out better in the dark.
Stands out. Yeah, it stands
Okay.
out to him better. Yeah. I wish I could read a fish's mind because I wouldn't need fish finder, but that's what's fishing for. You know, you got to fish for 'em.
Yeah. It's these things these animals with the little brains that
Yeah.
will drive you the most wild.
That's for sure. That's for sure. But then again, you know, I make my own jigs. There's several different companies all around that make good crappie jigs.
Yeah.
Handmade.
Yeah.
So I'll just get online. I'll go to a like Barlow's Tackle or something like that.
Okay.
They've got kits you can make jigs out of. It comes, you know, in a kit.
Yeah.
It's got everything you need. It's got all your gadgets.
Okay.
You know, your hook, you know, you put your hook on there, put your jig head on there, whichever choice you want. Put your jig head on there and go to town. And, you know, you order a bunch of feathers and hair. You know, I've even used some deer hair before to make a jig head.
Okay.
Or to make a jig out of.
Really?
Yep. Snow goose. We were talking about snow geese earlier.
Yeah.
I've used snow goose feathers to make a jig out of it and caught fish on it.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's wild. So the feather texture doesn't seem to affect the I guess fish.
No. When you make these jigs, you know, you're basically trying to imitate another fish. You know, so what I like to do is for my tail, you know, I like to make that V.
Yeah.
I like to make that V in my tail so it looks like a fish tail.
Okay. I'll tell you what. Let's take a quick break. Come back. I want to hear all about this.
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to the WJBM Outdoor Show, brought to you by Midwest Tractor Sales in Jerseyville. We're coming to you from the WJBM studios in Jerseyville, the voice of the Tri-Counties. I'm Aaron Quillen. I operate Monarch Rivers, where the mission is simple: kill big deer. Austin Cress, crappie extraordinaire. We were just talking about you making your own jigs, man.
Yeah. I just started, you know, pretty much last year.
Okay.
Just tinkering with it. You know, the more you tinker with it, the better you get. And I'm making some pretty cool jigs now. Getting them down pretty good. And I've caught fish. I've caught a lot of fish on them.
Okay.
Yeah. That different, you know, texture than a plastic jig. Mm-hmm. Color, you know, you can do any color you want.
Open that up there. You brought some along.
I've got all kinds of them in here. Yeah. There's anywhere from a white to blue.
This
black and chartreuse, flat with flashing in it, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all can see them, but yeah, they're cool. I can even make them for anybody who wants them to be made, you know.
Really?
Yeah, all I got to do is hit me up, and I can make them some.
Okay, what's the best way to do that?
Facebook, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, Facebook message or you know, something like that.
Okay.
But no, they're cool. They're cool to make. Yeah, orange and white. That's a good color down in Mississippi.
Okay.
You know, you use that in a darker water.
Okay.
Black and chartreuse is my favorite. The black body.
Yeah, I'm seeing the most of those in here.
Yeah, that's my go-to color pretty much anywhere around here because these waters are pretty stained up.
Okay.
You know, but yeah, I've been tinkering with it for a while, and I'm getting it down. You know, it's kind of neat. Them are actually chicken feathers.
Really?
Yeah, them are chicken feathers. You can order them online, and it's pretty cool how you can make them things.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Now the head on them.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's, you know, yellow, white, orange, pink. What's the determinant there? Does that?
Really, it's just a preference.
Okay.
Type deal, you know. I like a pink head, a chartreuse head. Sometimes it all depends. You know, you can fish with a pink head all day long, same color body, same color tail, as a yellow head, you know, a neon head, same color, same tail, and they might bite on that pink head all day long, and you go to fish with it the next day, and they won't bite on it. You put that neon head on, you know.
Yeah.
It just. They're temperamental. Yeah. Sometimes they're picky. But
yeah.
When you drop it right on their nose, 9 times out of 10, they're gonna hit it.
Okay.
You know. But yeah, they're cool. They're just chicken feathers. You can make them out of deer hair, duck feathers,
and it's like you're tying your own flies.
Yeah, basically. Yep. It's about the same setup.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, is there you talked a lot about shad and you know, bait fish. with these crazy bright colors, what are you trying to imitate there?
Just the stain of the water, basically. I don't know if they can really tell the color of the jig. It's the the demeanor of it.
Okay.
The look of it, which I do think they can see color, but that's yet to be proved, really. But once they get up, and into shallow water, it doesn't matter what you throw at them when they're on their beds.
Yeah.
You can throw a piece of tinfoil down there on a hook and they're going to hit it.
They tick them off.
Just protecting their beds,
Okay.
But yeah, different colors for different stain of water,
Yeah.
It's kind of neat.
I've literally taken like all of these out and sorted them.
It's all good. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just wild. So most of them seem to have like a feather tail.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Most of them I do have the chicken feather tail.
Yeah.
Which I have been making some lately that have, if you go online, you can order like a bass frog, a bass frog hair that comes off a bass frog. I'll put that on there instead of having having the feather on there.
Okay.
And it'll kind of imitate a bug.
Yeah.
Type deal. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, them work too.
This one's kind of like a cheetah print.
That's an orange and black body with a chartreuse tail. Yep.
Okay.
Your flashing in it really helps too. In the water, they see that flash like a minnow.
Yeah.
Or a minnow or a shad, they'll flash in the water.
Yep.
And you'll see that flash, and boy, they pow.
Okay.
Yep.
And then this is like most of these are kind of like a pipe cleaner material on the body.
Yeah. Yep. Schnell is what it's called. But it's about like yarn.
Yeah.
Basically. So
do you just wrap that around and then it ends up that texture?
Yeah. It comes in a roll.
Okay.
Or a little bundle. Okay. And in a bag, and then what I do first is I'll put my tail, my chicken feathers or whatever I'm gonna put on my tail end of it. I'll put that on first, and I've got a whip that allows the string to go through that you're tying it with.
Okay.
Color wise, you can have all kinds of different colors. I'll wrap that around it.
Okay.
Several times. I'll put some glue on it first before I put that body on. Okay. What you do is you take that body and just wrap it around, and it makes the body.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you glue, certain spot. I got a whip finisher that you whip finish it with. That'll tie your knot on the end of your head. That way it keeps everything together.
Okay.
I'll put a little dab of glue on it, and that way it won't come off. But
all right.
They're pretty cool to make.
Yeah, these are awesome.
Yeah.
And then these are different. So the jig heads that I'm more used to are kind of like fully round.
Yeah. They make all kinds of different, like a pill head. They make some now where you can put a crappie niblet inside of the jig head for the scent.
Ah.
Yeah. It's pretty neat. Yeah. Which I most of the time will have a crappie niblet on the end of my hook there. You just thread it right on the hook. It's like a little power bait,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, so fish scent is you're a believer.
Yep. For sure.
Because that's a huge industry.
Yeah.
In whitetail or trapping or like what. And now that's coming to fishing.
Ain't that something?
Yeah.
They do. I've had days where I've went out there and you can see the fish, on your depth finder. You drop that jig down there to them. They don't want nothing to do with it. You put that little niblet on there, or they even make a gel. They make a gel you can rub on the jig, and it's called thump gel. Really, the best kind is. But
okay,
you put that on there and you drop that thing down there. And I've had days where you had to have